Violence between Russia and Ukraine escalated over the weekend after Russia seized 3 small Ukrainian naval vessels and 23 soldiers, which included at least 3 wounded by a shooting that was basically done by the Russian side. Now, this is all over the Strait of Kerch, and a disagreement between Russians and Ukrainians as to who can use that narrow strait and when they can use it. Now, the Ukrainian Navy said the Russian military opened fire on several of its ships, wounding 6 sailors and seized the vessels. Russia's Federal Security Service initially issued a statement saying the Ukrainian ships had, after an altercation, altered course to return to a Ukrainian port. But it later said that Russia had detained the vessels and that it was providing first aid to 3 sailors. Now, there has been violence between Russia and Ukraine since 2014. As you can recall, Russia had annexed Crimea, which was a Ukrainian territory. Now, the FSB said in a statement that the Ukrainian naval convoy of 2 small warships and a tugboat had entered Russian territorial waters near Crimea on Sunday in a, quote, provocation. But that seems to be a lie. So I'll tell you why. So the Russian report said that Ukrainian ships disregarded announcements that the Kerch Strait was temporarily closed. But Ukraine, based on a treaty that was signed by Russia, had the right to use that strait. So now Ukraine is arguing that Russia has gone against the treaty and that they're going out of their way to prevent the sharing of that body of water.
Yeah. So look, it's messy because Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, and then they claimed, well, now all the waters around Crimea are ours as well. But Ukraine does not acknowledge that and validly cites that earlier treaty, and the United Nations seems to be more on that side. Certainly NATO is, and now that's unsurprising. NATO oftentimes, obviously, not working with the Russians, but in opposition to them. Mm-hmm. And so, but there are conflicting, interests there, and it is a bit of a mess because they kind of took a part of the country already illegally, and now it looks like they're trying to take more of the country. Mm-hmm. Now, but I will give you 2 points here that cut in different directions. The Ukrainian president right now is not incredibly popular, Petro Poroshenko, and there's an election coming up in March, and if you do martial law, then you cannot have elections or protests or strikes or any of those things. And now they have instituted martial law in Ukraine. So if he wanted a provocation, he could send in ships into an area that he knows would provoke the Russians. And if the Russians fire, he could say, I need martial law. And now he's got martial law. So that is also possible. Now, another possibility is the Russians think, well, Trump just let the Saudis get away with murder. So apparently we can do anything we want. This is a good time to test how much provocation we can do in the Ukraine and get away with. Because apparently Trump will let you get away with anything if he considers you an ally. Mm-hmm. So can we take more of Ukraine? Well, let's fire on him and see what Trump's reaction is.
So obviously I'm just speculating in what I'm about to say, but I think option B is the likely situation. And the reason why I say that is because Trump has been very complimentary and favorable toward the Russians, particularly Vladimir Putin. And even after this provocation, even after the use of force by Russians in this particular case, Trump has refused to condemn the Russian side. So I'll tell you exactly what he said. First, he refused to say anything at all, and it all fell on Nikki Haley to release a statement, which we'll show you in just a second. But when asked how he felt about the clash, Trump said, quote, not good, not happy about it at all. He seemed reluctant to blame Russia, adding, quote, we do not like what's happening either way, and hopefully it will get straightened out soon. Now, again, as Jenkin mentioned, NATO is backing Ukraine in this case. And the video that you're watching right now was actually released by the Ukrainian Minister of Internal Affairs to provide evidence of what occurred. But that strait that we're talking about right now, that essentially started this whole conflict, is important for Ukraine because it's utilized quite a bit to trade steel and coal. And so they've been using that strait, and the idea that all of a sudden, they're breaking some sort of rule with Russia by using it, it seems like misinformation that's being spread by Russia.
Yeah, but would Russia ever spread misinformation? Never. But I'm less sure of what's happening here, to be honest. Both sides, unfortunately, this happens often throughout the world. Both sides have their leaders, not their actual people, but their leaders have an advantage in conflict. So the Ukrainian side gets to suspend regular rules if there's a conflict and gain popularity. We have to fight the big bad Russians. I alone can protect you. And the Russians get to test how much of they can get away with in Ukraine and maybe take some more territory. And when they have, guys, keep it real. Which US president is more likely to let them take more Ukrainian territory with no repercussions, no sanctions, no nothing? You know what'll happen? Or what could happen? Russia could take more of Ukraine, and then Trump will come out and go, yeah, but they deny it. They strongly deny it. Yeah, but they took it, it's theirs now, right? Yeah, but they denied it. I asked Putin, I asked him 3 times, and every time he said, I didn't take it. So, and by the way, one other piece of information that leans towards what Anna's saying, that the Russians are, in this case, being disingenuous. They originally said that they had not taken their ships, the Ukrainian ships captive. Later, they changed their story because they had the ships.
Exactly.
So they're like, yeah, we got the ships. Okay, we took them captive.
Look, and I'm not sure of what the truth is, 100% truth. No one is 100% certain. But we have whatever evidence or details we have in front of us right now, and it appears that one side has already been caught being dishonest. And one side has a very clear interest in taking more Ukrainian land. So that's the reason why I'm coming up with the conclusions that I'm coming up with. But again, as I clearly mentioned, it's speculation as of now. The story is still developing. Now, I want to go to Nikki Haley quickly because she did release a statement about this, and she did the opposite of what Trump did. She actually did condemn the Russians. Take a look.
What we witnessed this weekend is yet another reckless Russian escalation. Both Russia and Ukraine use the Strait routinely. But this time, Russia decided to prevent passage of the Ukrainian ships, rammed them, and then opened fire on them. The United States will continue to stand with the people of Ukraine against the Russian aggression. As President Trump said many times, the United States would welcome a normal relationship with Russia. But outlaw actions like this one continue to make that impossible.
Yeah, she's about to leave, so she can call out the Russians, and later she will gain neoconservative support in calling them out. She'll also gain support from logical people, right? And so it's a win-win for her on her way out from that position, which she explained before the election she was going to leave. Trump, on the other hand, being Putin's boy, is like, well, I don't know. He denies it, strongly denies it, right? And obviously countering what his United Nations ambassador is saying.
On the go? Don't worry, we got you covered. You can still listen to TYT at our new podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts, the Google Play Store, or at tyt.com/podcast.